Hey, we're going back in time, we are. Looking through the history book, and what are we coming up with? Gravy. What? Red-eye gravy. I'm talking with ham steak. What's it made with? Coffee. Yeah, you heard me right. Coffee is going in there with it, going to give it a rich red color. Come on, I'll get the pot boiling, and I'm going to teach you a history lesson as well. Hey, thank y'all for stopping by camp, and whoo, what a glorious day it is, because what? We going back in history. We are. I do love these whole historical pieces. You don't have to watch the History Channel. Turn that knob on over. Yep, whoop, go back. Yep, Cowboy Rollins right there on YouTube. I want you to know everything that we're using today, everything you need to know. Andy and Shan always got you fixed up. There's a little link right down there where you can find out from the clothes I wear to the equipment I use. So, some of y'all been asking, where you be getting your shirts and your boots? Can y'all do that on your kitchen table? Make sure your feet's clean before you do. Ariat, good folks at Ariat, they keep me looking good. There is a link to where you can go. Cowboy Kent Rollins page over there on Ariat. You can look like me, Swab, and Debonair every day, but let's get back to history. I'm talking hard times was upon a lot of people when you was having red-eye gravy. Now, some of you's already, I can hear you out there saying, well, red-eye gravy and sawmill gravy, that's the same thing. Sawmill gravy, which came along later than this, was made in the old logging camps, and the cook would make it, cut saws, running them all day, and you get that pile of sawdust that's flows right down under them logs. Well, if that gravy they was having that morning was really thick, they'd have claimed the cook had done put a bunch of that sawdust in there. Well, red-eye gravy is totally different. Now let's talk about, let me see, go way back, turn the pages, rewind, 1812. Yep, that's where we're starting. We are. Colonel Andrew Jackson, or Old Hickory as we called him, he was there in camp, and he had a cook who had got into corn squeezins, also known as moonshine, and sometimes known as the mule, because it done kicked him. And he come walking in there that morning and asked Old Hickory, what would you be liking for breakfast? Well, legend has it that old Andrew looked over there at him, and the cook's old eyes was bloodshot so bad. And he said, I'll have some gravy as red as your eyes with some ham. But another means that it come about, and you can see it sometimes, the coffee and the grease that is coming off that ham tend to separate, and the coffee sort of makes a red circle in the middle, and when you look down in there, hey, something looking back at you, sort of like the Twilight Zone. It scares me, it does. I was a little bit skeptical, because all them old timers used to ask me for it on ranches, and I just didn't like to make it. But folks, I'm telling you, this stuff is fit to eat, because I done put me some biscuits in there. It is good. So y'all meet me over here at the fire, and we'll get to going. Whew. Can y'all hear that sound? That is a good sound, it is. That is some ham steak. And you seen me go ahead and cut them edges just a little. That's so it don't go to try to curling up. Now, there's different kinds of ham steak. There's fresh and there's cured. Now, this is cured, and it's got a little salt cure to it and a little smoke cure both. Back in the day, Civil War days especially, everything was salt cured. Now, that old ham be really salty, and it would probably make more grease back then than it does now. So we're going to go ahead and fry this ham about 4 to 5 minutes each side, because I want it to get some really good color and try to leach out some of that good flavor back into that skillet, because we got to have it when we go to making that roux. Now, folks, we cooked this about 4 to 5 minutes aside. Now, remember, this is a salt-cured, smoke-cured ham that's already been cooked. So really, we're just browning it back through. So it's time for it to come over here to the cool side it is, and we're going to get it out of there, because we got to let our skillet cool, and we got to let this ham steak sit over here and cool just a little bit, because it's going to make a little more liquid. Now, normally back in Civil War time, there'd have been a whole lot of them drippings just remained in that skillet. And guess what? All that I had to do was add flour and coffee. That's it. Red-eye gravy, you're through. But folks, we have changed it up just a little, because we don't have enough grease in there, and I want to make me a better roux. So guess what? We're going to add us some butter, because who don't like some butter? And some bacon grease. Take your wooden spatula. What, you ain't got one? Well, y'all know where you can find one. And folks, you know gravy is always made with milk, right? I don't think there was a milk cow nowhere close by when red-eye gravy come about. So what was it again? Coffee. Hey, you're gonna love it. It is good for breakfast, but also it makes good red-eye gravy. It does. Make sure you got some brewing, and you gotta have it, so make sure it's hot because it's gonna help. 2 to 3 tablespoons of flour, and I ask you just to sift her in there somewhere. We're gonna call that probably pretty close to 3. And guess what, Andy? It happens every video. I've got to be gone to get something. Well, remember in them gravy making videos, I told you you'd be needing one of these. It's not a fly swatter, it is a spatula with holes in it because you can get them lumps in it. Now see the color that roux is already turning? I want you to let that roux come to just a little simmer, I do. And you may have to rotate your skillet around a little to even out the hot spots on your fire. But if you're in the house, you ought not be having no problem. But make sure you get all them drippings scraped up back in there, because that's where we're getting a lot of this flavor. It needs some coffee, because I have got me some simmering going on here. And you begin to see that shimmer, so we don't want to lose that. Now it calls for about 1 cup to 1.5 cups, which would be about 12 ounces if you're using 1.5 cups. So we're just going to start with a little and just go from there. Just keep stirring, bring that back to a boil. You can see as it begins to thicken up a little, just add you some more in there. A little more of that, because folks, there's a lot of flavor coming out of there. And I'll guarantee you on them ranches, all them old timers used to ask me every morning, "Hey Kent, you gonna fix some red-eye gravy?" I say, no, I ain't that fond of it. Well folks, I'm telling you now, I'm really fond of it, because this stuff, time you pour it back on a piece of that ham, get you some biscuits, because it was always called, what? Sopping. You know how to sop, don't you, Shen? You take a biscuit, tear it in half, put it down in there, what's that called?
Sopping.
Yes, it ain't dipping, it is sopping. Now, however you like the consistency of your gravy, but I'm gonna let this thicken up just a little. That's smoother than Frank Sinatra right there. But at this point, you remember them drippings that we had? I need you to be pouring them in there. Because folks, that is some of that there great flavor that we need. Go ahead and stir her back in there. Let her come back to a boil. You ever seen nobody pour gravy like that? I mean, that's what you call the pour back and forth. And folk, look at that good color. Don't that look delicious? I like to just go ahead and cut. Whoa! Finally showed up, did you, Dookie? Well, folks, the beeg has been out here the whole time, so I guess I better feed my help first before I even do anything else. Thank you, Beeg, for always helping. Duke, you're pretty lazy, buddies, but you go ahead on there. We appreciate you. So let me get my bite. Oh my gosh, going to the hoot to nanny, going to the hoot a nanny. Now folks, I'm gonna tell you, maybe all them old timers was right so many years ago when I was cooking for them ranches, because let me tell you, that is divine right there, it is. Because you be thinking bitter, burnt coffee taste sort of when you got it in there. You know, with all them good ham drippings that's in there, and then you take that butter and that bacon grease and fold her back in there, make you a roux. Little pepper's all it needs, because like I say, it has got plenty of salt. Now it's time to do a little sopping. That's what it was called a lot of times, was sopping. Y'all need a little sopping? What do you think? Beeg says too hot to wag tails. Well, folks, it's a done deal, it is, and I hope y'all enjoyed it because we sure did. But as always, I tip my hat to all our servicemen and women, all the veterans who have kept that old flag a-flying in camp. Wherever me and Shan and the Beagle and Duke may be, we appreciate you one and all. And folks, I want to thank y'all because we've had a lot more people tuning in here lately. Subscriber count has jumped up. I appreciate you sharing them videos with all your friends and neighbors because that's what it's about, folks. Let's share the good time, the fellowship, the food, and let's all be happy because remember that song, Shan? Be happy, don't worry. So,
eat gravy.
Eat red-eye gravy. Now, folks, remember, my Ariat clothing and the recipe, it's all listed right down there below. So, whoo, I'll see you next week when you're tuning in down the what? The red-eye gravy trail. Nanny, a hoot nanny.
Well, I just don't.
Oh, you long-winded.
And Duke wants a bite.
What?